Good evening, everyone. So nice to see such a large crowd. Welcome everyone to tonight's listening session. Today is Wednesday, June 25th. We are in the multi-purpose room on the third floor of the Bennington Fire Facility on River Street in Bennington. My name is Tom Haley. I have the honor of chairing this board, and I will ask my fellow board members to introduce themselves, starting with Nancy.
Hi, I'm Nancy White.
Good evening, Sarah Parent, and thank everybody here from the state level, legislators, for also joining us.
Agreed. My name is Jim Sullivan.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jackie Matz.
All right, thanks. Also with us is Josh Boucher, who is recording us tonight for CAT TV, and Jonah Spivak, who's going to give us a brief introduction before we get started tonight. Tonight is one of a series of listening sessions that we've had. We're trying something a little bit different tonight in that we've introduced a topic to kind of kick things off, but time permitting, we will open the floor up to other topics as well. So as announced, and I hope you all know, and I suspect you all know, we're here to take public input on the future of the Bennington Battle Monument. I will ask Jonah to go ahead and kick things off for us.
Hello, thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity. When I heard that the topic was going to be on the Bennington Battle Monument, I thought it would be valuable to take just a few minutes to give a very brief introduction to inform the discussion. Although looking at the crowd here today, there are many people here that know far more than I on this subject, so this is a very informed crowd, but not everybody is necessarily. So I hope the folks at home will find this useful. My name is Jonah Spivak. I'm the Communications Coordinator for the town of Bennington. And again, thank you to the Select Board for allowing me a few minutes of time for this introduction. First of all, why do we have a monument? It's commemorating the Battle of Bennington. This is literally something that we could talk for hours on, just on this topic itself. But suffice to say, it was an incredibly important moment in not just our local history, but also in the founding of the independent Republic of Vermont, born in the crucible of revolution, but also our national history and international history as well. So I'm not going to go into too much detail, but there are a few points that I think it might be useful to cover. One is, you could argue you might want to call it the Battle for Bennington, because General Stark chose his ground just outside of what is currently the border of Vermont as the place where he wanted to meet the enemy. But as you can see, indeed, a portion of the battlefield, you can see the core battlefield in red, a portion of that is in Vermont, as well as a larger portion of that battlefield as a whole. That green spot in the middle, that is the Bennington Battlefield State Historic Site. I think it's important to mention that this was the global superpower of the time, Great Britain, attacking down through the Champlain Valley. This was the great plan to crush the revolution, and they seemed unstoppable. And in fact, the Battle of Bennington was the first check on the advance of General Burgoyne's troops. And it was the first successful storming of an artillery position by an untrained militia army, something that British generals like to think might be impossible. Indeed, they were wrong. I give credit to Don Miller for this tidbit in a presentation he gave at the Bennington Museum as part of their Bennington history programs, that more men were killed and captured at the Battle of Bennington than both battles of Saratoga combined. Indeed, Thomas Jefferson called it the first link in the chain, which led to victory at Saratoga, which many consider to be the turning point in the American Revolution. By the way, both of those paintings are paintings of the Battle of Bennington that inspired creative works by artists. We are incredibly proud of this here in Bennington. In fact, so proud that we began commemorating it the year after it happened in 1778. And I used to be fond of saying that we were the only continuously celebrated Revolutionary War battle in the Revolutionary War. But no, I was corrected. Apparently, the Battle of Cowpens in South Carolina has also been continuously celebrated, but I note that that battle did not happen until 1781, so we remain the longest running continuously celebrated battle. Thank you very much. The idea of having a monument emerged pretty early on. In fact, the first talk about it really started in 1853, but it kind of stalled a little bit. But then interest rejuvenated around the centennial of the Declaration of Independence. And at that time, a revived effort led by the Bennington Historical Society in the state of Vermont resulted in a new commission being formed to have this monument built. So they came up with an amazing design. Da, da, da. There it is. Yes, that was the approved final decision design for the Bennington Battle Monument. Needless to say, one gentleman, this gentleman right here, Highland Hall, former governor of Vermont, the founder of the Historical Society, the founding president, member of that, he took one look at that design and said, no way. No way in heck are we going to allow that little grouping, no offense to the designer, but that's not enough to represent how important the Battle of Bennington was to us and our history. He really wanted to see something massive and lofty, and in fact, one of the secondary designs, as you can see here on the right, was this sort of medieval-esque looking design. But I think happily for all of us, and although he did not live to see it completed, instead what we got was this, our very own Bennington Battle Monument. To this day, the tallest man-made structure in the entire state of Vermont. Nearly 40,000, I think it was 39,971 people, to be exact, in 2024, purchased tickets to go to the top. And I dare say at least another 10,000 went to the site when it was either not open or chose not to go up to the top. That has a tremendous impact, not just for people interested in history, but our local economy and the state's economy. I think it's safe to say that it is the most visited historic site in the state of Vermont. And that cost in 1889 $112,000, which was a lot of money. In fact, Massachusetts and New Hampshire chipped in on the cost, as did the U.S. Congress. School children collected coins to help pay for the monument. A couple of pictures of its construction. Something like 6,000 blocks of limestone were used to build it. Nobody died during its construction, but one workman did fall about 200 feet, crashing through the different levels of scaffolding, which happily broke his fall enough so that he survived without serious injury. And then the picture on the right, you can see that is the capstone being placed on the monument, which was completed in 1889. It would not be dedicated until a couple years later, in 1891, the centennial of Vermont's statehood. And of course, dedicating that would be sitting President Benjamin Harrison, along with thousands and thousands of other people. Cracks found in the monument. As early as 1907, they noticed some cracks starting to appear. And there were fears for its future even then, just 18 years after it was completed. So in effect, some of the concerns we have now are not new. In 1953, as the costs for maintaining the monument continued to grow, ownership was transferred to the state of Vermont. As part of that stewardship, the state of Vermont's Division for Historic Preservation started to look at the monument about what could and should be done. And the first step of that was the creation of a structural and engineering report. By the way, a link to that is located on the town's website, and I'll give you more information about that at the end of this brief presentation. What you see here in this picture, and actually I'd be remiss not to say that I have permission from the Vermont Division for Historic Preservation to show this image. It's been seen virtually nowhere else. That's a drone photo of the workers doing this detailed study of every inch of the monument, top to bottom, inside and out. The result that was published in March of 2024 was this completed Phase 2 Comprehensive Structural and Material Testing and Evaluation and Outline of Restoration Approach document, which is kind of a mouthful. And it is an impressive document. and they really did their due diligence in this work. Some of the things it outlines in it are the problems that we're seeing on the stones, the cracking of the stones, the problems with moisture and rusting and some of the metal fixtures inside, as well as some of the failed earlier restoration attempts, which in some cases actually made the problem worse. Oh, fun factoid, Stevens and Associates, the project leader for this, who did this work, is Ben Harwood, 8th generation Benningtonian from the original Harwoods of Bennington. So nice little touch there. A detailed presentation of this was given to the Vermont Senate Institutions Committee, and we're very glad today to have Rob Plunkett here with us, along with Tim Corcoran and Seth Bongartz, other members of our Vermont delegation. In this was Laura Trishman and James Duggan. They went into depth going through everything about that report with a lot of excellent questions from those committee members. And that link to that video and the slide deck presented in that video are both on our town website on that page that I'll be sharing with you very shortly. I did reach out to Laura Trishman. Unfortunately, because of the short notice on the timing, I just learned about this on Thursday after it was announced that the Select Board was going to have this on as a topic. I did invite her to share some of her thoughts to help inform our discussion today. So I'm going to go through these. Some of these are kind of lengthy. I'm not going to read them in their entirety, but to summarize, they are planning to have community meetings to talk about this, and specifically listening sessions. We can expect the first of them perhaps as early as this fall and winter, and then into the spring, more of them in 2026. She points out this is a state-owned building, but it is a Vermont landmark for us all. And by the way, the kind of monitoring and maintenance work they did as part of the study will continue, not just this year, but forever, as a way to track how the monument is reacting to all the weather and the maintenance efforts. So the kind of stuff that was initiated for the purpose of the report will continue. She wants us to be aware that the conclusions on the condition of the monument is still in its learning stage. So we'd be premature to come out with specific conclusions as that work has not yet been completed. One example of that, that $40 million price tag that some of us have seen out in the media, it's a little premature. It's not really supported by anything beyond a best guess by a group, the team that was studying the monument, based on their experience. So it's a guesstimate, let's call it that. But the fact is, we really need to start by drying it out before we can figure it out how to fix it, because we do know that $12.5 million will be needed to design and construct the scaffolding to dry out the monument. Because this water, moisture in the stones and the humidity inside the building is the crux of the problem. It's not primarily from rain, but it is definitely the humidity that's the issue. And there's no restoration possible until that first problem is addressed. So, good news, safety maintenance measures are in place, and they're proving effective. The elevator mechanicals are stabilizing, they're monitoring the cracks, and they're recording the moisture, and they actually saw less fluctuation over the last year. They've also contracted for seismic monitoring. That was a new thing. I hadn't heard about that before. She wants us to note that this project will take many, many years and needs due diligence. And I must say, as shown in that report, the state is doing their due diligence. And it's not happening quickly, but it's being done well. Finally, the cost will be high, which does mean fundraising and grants, because Vermont is not a rich state. The takeaway message that she wants us to remember and that we should all keep in mind is that the monument is structurally sound and open to the public. Thank goodness for that. So we do have all this information that I've very briefly shared with you on our town website. It's under that community tab, Bennington Battle Monument. I've also provided a QR code. You can just scan that with your phone if you're watching on TV. And at this point, after that very brief introduction, I'm going to pass it back to the Select Board. I'm going to take a moment just to break down my stuff here, but then this lectern will be available in addition to that one for the comments of the public. And thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it.
Jonah, thanks very much. That was great work. And before we move on, I want to mention that I forgot to mention that Nancy Lively is also joining us and currently is taking excellent minutes. So, okay, so Jonah just brought us up to date on where we've been and where we are right now. When Jim and I were discussing topics for this session, we discussed how we wanted it to be we wanted to establish where the town's place was in this process. And while it is a state landmark, we can certainly, I think, be advocates for this monument because it is such an important landmark in Bennington and does draw so many visitors to our town, who in turn, we hope, visit our downtown, our businesses, our restaurants, etc. So if no one on the board has anything to add, I will open it up to... Oh, go ahead.
I would just say it's impossible to overstate how critically important that monument has been to our local economy for decades. Like Jonah said, 40,000 people bought tickets last year. We have no idea how many people rode up by it in the winter or other times of the year when it was closed. And the number of people who make a point to come here to go to the monument, how many of them also shop and eat and may stay overnight? So we don't own it in Bennington, but I think we really need to come together and say, we really need to get behind this and say, we need the Bennington Monument.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. So who wants to go first? Since you stood right up, I'll let you go. Yeah.
I'm Bob Teggart. I'm past president of the Bennington Historical Society. I'm a commissioner of the Bennington Historic Preservation Commission, and administrator of the Regional History Room at the Bennington Museum. But I speak as a citizen today on the Bennington Battle Monument. I'm going to probably give some of the same things that Jonah just gave, but the monument does commemorate the Battle of Bennington, fought on August 16th, 1777. And this is one of the many turning points in the American Revolution. And the idea of constructing a monument goes back to like 1854, but this in the Civil War era. But it wasn't until 1875 that the monument really began to take shape. The idea began to take shape. And the Bennington Battle Monument was formed, and it was part of the Bennington Historical Society. Land was purchased. Buildings were knocked down. There was a whole community of buildings at the top of the hill. Many of them were historic, but they came down to build the monument. The monument did cost $112,000, but out of that $112,000, $42,000 came from private donations. We did get donations from the U.S. government, from Massachusetts, from New Hampshire, and of course Vermont kicked in, and the idea was begun. In 1877 was a centennial of the Battle of Bennington. And they did have quite a celebration there. President Rutherford B. Hayes attended it, and the idea of a monument continued to grow. The cornerstone was finally laid in 1887, and it was completed in 1889, so it took 2 years to put that capstone on. But it was in 1891, on the centennial of Vermont's admission to the United States, to the Union, that it was dedicated. And President Benjamin Harrison came at that time and spoke, and he had a reception at the Williamsock Inn. So he was hanging around Old Bennington. 5,000 people attended that event in 1891. And there was one president there, and there was one future president that came as well. Calvin Coolidge came with his father to attend that event. So we had 2 presidents there. But it stands today at 306 feet, 4.5 inches, made out of blue limestone blocks. Each one of those blocks weighs about a ton. They had to construct a railway spur to bring them in. And they constructed it in 2 years. But it marks Bennington's role in the Battle of Bennington. It marks our establishment of Vermont as an independent republic and later as a member of the Union. So it's ready for the upcoming celebration of the 250th anniversary of the founding of Vermont and the Battle of Bennington. So we can look forward to seeing it stand for those next events too. Maybe we'll get, I don't know if we'll get another president to come, but we'll have another event. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Thomas Sheets. I live right next to the monument. I have my entire life. And it was pretty jarring to see the report in all the media about how terrible things were going with the structure, apparently. And so I wrote to Vita Digger about it, and maybe you've seen that. But I would like to reemphasize how important it is to the economy around here. Nancy brought up how many people visit it, but it's also just so important to the identity of this place as a region. It was my mother's birthday yesterday, so we were up in Quechee going antiquing, pretending we were tourists, and we were in this huge like souvenir store of Vermont memorabilia, and the monument was on everything in there. It was Bennington's only like piece of it. The rest of it was all Montpelier and Stowe and the famous tourist place, and then Bennington is represented by the monument. Starbucks sells cups to prove that you've been to Starbucks in every state, and the one for Vermont has the monument on it. I could give a million examples, but I think to help solve the issue of the immense amount of money we have to spend on it, much in the same way that public subscription was used to help build it centuries ago, I think there needs to be some kind of like account to collect donations to, I don't know, by the state or by the town or by whoever, to collect donations to go towards fixing the monument by whatever means necessary. I think that needs to happen like kind of yesterday. And because it's not going to get us 40 million, I don't think, but there's people across the country, I imagine, and certainly in this town, who would be willing to pitch into that. An article ran in the Boston Globe about the predicament, and there are people in the comments from Connecticut, from New York, from wherever, who have no idea about the monument but would love to help save it. And so I think that needs to be done to get at least some amount of something to help fix our dear monolith. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Right, go ahead, right here. Yep. You. Yeah.
Lorna Cheriton, I'm Bennington resident. I recognize the importance, historical significance of the Bennington Monument. I was shocked by the figure of $48 million to repair it, and even if it's the 12.5 to take care of the stonework, there'll still be a lot more. I would really like to see the stones of the Bennington Monument recreated into something else, and a new structure added, something that we've got that much more technology now that we could build something really amazing with modern elevator, room for more people to view the landscape up top. We could have a really dynamite audio-visual presentation about the history of the Battle of Bennington and of the Bennington Monument for people to enjoy. And I think we would want to save the stones that went into the Bennington Monument, whether to make a patio or a pathway or a rock garden. I feel people would still come to see this. In fact, some of the people who had come to see the obelisk, Bennington Monument, would probably be interested to come to our town and see what we have created new.
All right, thank you. In the back. You'll be next, sir.
And hi, folks. I'm Rob Plunkett. I'm Bennington. I'm also the state senator. And I can, first of all, I just want to say that I'm very excited about this listening session and what I'm hearing about how the Bennington Battle Monument matters. So I'm a new senator. I got up to Montpelier. The monument's owned by the state. We're responsible for it. So I can let you know a little bit about what had happened in Montpelier and what is going to happen a little bit in the future. So the short of it is that the money for state buildings runs through a couple of committees in the legislature. That's the Corrections and Institutions Committee. And we have Mary Morrissey and Will Greer sitting on that committee. And then it also goes through the Senate Institutions Committee. I'm the vice chair of that committee. So we're very well positioned in terms of the money that will be coming from the states to make sure that we get what we need for the monument. And this was one of the big conversations that I had with my fellow senators and our delegation. And Representative Nigro is also here. The Bennington delegation, we met and we talked about this issue because we, like I think everybody else, when we learned that there was a major renovation that was needed, we thought, what can we do? Let's make this happen. And we had a lot of conversations, and I spoke with Laura Treachman a number of times. And the first year was relatively minimal because what they need to do is continue with the study. So this year's capital bill, which is the money bill for the state construction, we have $500,000 in there for essentially the RFP for the first stage. So we got that in, and that's what's going to happen for the rest of the time. And then next year we'll be talking about it again and again and again. And it is true that in the end it's going to cost a lot of money, and we're going to need fundraising. And Nancy, you were exactly right. There's no way to overstate the importance of the monument. And we as a town can do that and make sure that everyone in Vermont, because the state, when it was dedicated, the governor talked about this being a sacred trust to keep that monument as it is and for the future. So this listening session is about the future of the Bennington Battle Monument. And I want us to think a little bit more about it's going to be restored as it is. It's going to look the way it is. And what more can we do there? And some of the conversations are there's going to be more archaeological studies there. There's talk of perhaps reconstructing other buildings that were there. And maybe, as Jonah had mentioned to me the other day, maybe we could turn it into a piece of living history as well. So these are the future of the Bennington Battle Monument. The first thing that I thought when I saw this listening session was, oh boy, we don't have a lot of information yet, but Jonah really covered much more than I had expected. But it's going to take a long time to get there. But I thought, for me, with the Bennington Battle Monument, it really is the past, and not the past of the monument itself, or even of Bennington, but just literally my past, where I grew up almost in the shadow of the Bennington Battle Monument. And we see that as our symbol for our town and our community. And it's quite literally the needle that sews the fabric of who we are. And that's what I grew up knowing and loving and believing. And we as a town can make sure that everybody knows that and make it much, much better even than it is now. So I thank you all for having this session, and there'll be a lot more sessions going forward. But reach out to us and all of your legislators. Let us know, and we will repeat your voices to everyone up there to say how much this is important and how much we need to do this. And it's going to take a long time, but you saw how long it took to build, so we need to be patient. But this is important, and thank you so much for having this listening session. I look forward to many, many more.
Thank you, Senator. The purple shirt.
I'm Dave Pilichowski, a resident here in town. Obviously, the monument is visible and a crucial part of the town's identity. But I see a larger, almost series of concentric circles when I think of the monument. The Bennington Museum and the Old First Church work collaboratively with the folks at the monument. I'm involved at the church as a trustee, involved in the capital campaign, involved hosting the Open Church program, which involves between 8,000 and 10,000 visitors alone just to visit that historic building. At the museum, I'm fortunate enough to be a trustee, work with Bob Teggart in the Regional History Room, or library, most people know it as, where we get all kinds of questions about not only the battle, but about the monument and about Bennington history more broadly. This is an opportunity for us to think beyond the monument, which is a big thing to think about. I mean, the thing is huge. It's one of the first buildings, the first. Well, it's one of the first things you see as you approach. When we have company, and I'm sure this is common with everybody in the room, they want to see the monument. They want to go up and see that and understand its history and the broader context of what I would call a historic neighborhood, not just Old Bennington Museum and our history. And so I'm really pleased that listening sessions, not only like tonight's, but will continue, and the interest that people, the citizens, have shown by showing up here today. Thanks for the opportunity. Much appreciated.
Thank you. I see Colonial Man.
Good evening. Colonial Man, and I echo many of the comments that have been said already. The monument is my home, literally. Kidding. But I think we, as the hyper-local stewards of this beautiful historical piece of history, need to just, as we have our representatives here, make sure that our voices are heard at the state and even the national level, as Mr. Sheets recommended a fundraiser campaign. So, love the monument. Keep going to it, learning the history. 2 years from now, the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Bennington is going to be something to behold. So, come see the monument.
Thank you. Right here, blue shirt.
So, sorry, my name is Brian Sheets. My son already spoke. I've lived near the monument for over 20 years, where I argue with one of my neighbors about whose house is closest. I think mine is. I live right next to the gift shop, so it's a high traffic area at the highest traffic tourist attraction in the state. And in all of those 20 years, I've never once been bothered by a visitor to the monument. They're some of the best behaved tourists and visitors you could ever hope for. So if the state, as Rob kind of pointed out, is considering enhancing the site to have other activities, I can't speak for every resident of the village, but as the self-proclaimed closest resident to the monument, I don't see any downside to that at all. I think that is a great idea, and I would look forward to seeing what other uses for the park can be devised. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Good evening, William Todd. I am the newly elected president of the Friends of the Monument. We are a modest local group of about 60 members. You probably heard of us, but I'm going to give a little pitch tonight as well. So the group was established in 2005 by George McCain, who's in the audience tonight. I also have Gail Wood and Charles Dewey. They're on our board. But you don't know, but we monitor and maintain the website for the Battle Monument. I have really good Google traffic data to share at some point later, but it is an exceptional site. I also worked there one season, so I have inside information which I cannot share tonight. But going back to Bob's story, the guy that fell 200 feet, he was back at work the next day, because back then, they were true patriots. They loved their Revolutionary War heroes back then. Those people that built that monument would have done it for free if they were asked. On another note, I was just in a play up in Castleton in May, and I met a Freemason, and he was going to the National Convention in Denver this year, and he said he would have an audience with the Grand Poobah. So I am eager to get the word out there about what we need here at the monument, and we all mostly feel the same about that. So a little bit more about our group. We sponsor events at the monument. The Flag Day, July 4th, reading of the Declaration of Independence. We sponsor the Moodus Fife and Drum Corps each year at the Battle Day celebration. We closely liaise, I know, big word, with Mary Lou Chicote at the monument, and we go by her advice. And now I'm also on the 250th committee, and we muster up there the reenactment, the Green Mountain Boys, and so it is a sight anytime we're up there. Gail reminded me to mention the 5K Battle Day race, which she is the director of, and that's coming up August 16th. Anything to add? No. All right. So again, we're just a small group. We get small donations, but we have members that come to the meetings. All the meetings are open to the public. Our next meeting is Wednesday, July 9th at 5 p.m. at the First Church Barn on Monument Circle. I had a real nice email from a member in Cicero, New York, who was inquiring about, paying his dues or making a donation, but he also wanted to know about some of his descendants who had experiences back in the days of the Bennington battle. So yes, I'm going all over the place here, but so I know from working there again that people just show up, they see the obelisk from the highway, they can't leave unless they see it. So I've also taken people up the elevator that are descendants of John Stark or Seth Warner, and it moves me. So Gail also has some membership forms if anybody's interested in signing up or joining our team. I'm not saying we're going to be the leaders to get the $15 trillion to fix the monument, but we do want to, stay in touch with the state and Laura, and maybe sponsor a meeting or Q&A session with them at some point too, and maybe we can do that at the monument. So. Anything else I'm missing here, crew? All right, thank you.
Thanks, William. Okay, who else would like to? Martin.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Martin Mahoney. I'm a resident of Bennington. I've been a resident for almost 4 years. I also have the privilege of being the executive director of the Bennington Museum, which is the direct inheritor of the Bennington Historical Association that was formed in 1852 to come up and fund the Bennington Battle Monument. Shortly thereafter, that organization became the Bennington Battle Monument and Historical Association, and that's where we stayed until 1928, when the museum was opened. And we've been supporting the monument indirectly until 1953. And I say indirectly because upon completion, the state was deeded the land around the monument, and the Bennington, what's today called the Bennington Museum, was charged with the care and feeding of the monument until 1953. I will mention I'm lucky I've got access to the notes from these organizations, and even back in 1920 there was problems with traffic, with parking, with trees being cut down in Old Bennington, so things remain the same. But it's as the director of the museum, we talk about preservation, and preservation is key to what we do. And we talk about objects in place. And right now, you have a unique structure that symbolizes, like no else, Bennington, Vermont. Your children grew up in the shadow of the monument. Your great-grandchildren will grow up in the shadow of the monument. It's very important. Please don't even consider knocking down that structure. It's singular, it's unique, and it defines this town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin.
I'm Jerry Albert. I'm just an amateur historian, and I've been very enthralled with what's going on in preparation for the 250th anniversary of the Battle of Bennington. But during this research, I was told that there's a right-of-way of a road that the town still has a right-of-way for that goes down past the monument, down over the hill, because the monument, I guess, actually was built in the middle of the main thoroughfare heading north. And so that road still continues. You can see it, actually. And I was just wondering what's its status, if it's owned by the town. So I'm asking you guys.
That's news to me, Jerry, but Dan Monks is here.
So we have had surveyors look into that, and that is still a public right-of-way. Part of it is owned by the village of Old Bennington, and part of it is owned by the town of Bennington as it heads towards the Northside Drive area. So it is a public right-of-way.
Thanks. Anyone else? If you're in the back, okay, right here. Yep, you.
Rennie Ponver. So I just wanted to address quickly what, first of all, I'm thrilled to see all these people and all the wonderful historical perspective and have state reps and everything here. It's great. This is a good listening session, really nice, inspiring. But I wanted to address what you had said earlier, Tom, about why would the select board even have this sort of in front of them. And my view of that is that you're sort of our proxy as a board for 15,000, 16,000 residents of Bennington. And to Nancy's point, you know, between the monument and Martin's Museum, it is the gateway to Vermont. It's the reason people stop here. And if they even spend $50 while they're here, that's going to equate into literally $2 or $3 million a year in revenue for all the restaurants, the gas stations. I didn't even figure in hotels, Nancy. But, so it means a lot to us as a greater community of 16,000 people. And that's just a greedy little side of the great historical premise that everyone else has spoken to. But please, as a board, be active in promoting it up to the state, because living in southern Vermont, sometimes I feel like the view from Mount Pelier appears to start at Rutland and work north, and we're doing a lot here.
Thank you. Mr. Bethel?
Tom, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. I don't see any negative to not preserving the monument. I mean, Mary Lou Albert and Jerry and a bunch of people, work their tail off to light it, and it's beautiful at night. It is our symbol of identity. It's our mascot if it was alive. I mean, it's ours and nobody else's. Shaftesbury doesn't have a monument. No place else in Vermont has a monument. So I think what we need to do is set up a committee of these folks or other folks to find out how we can go on the internet and present our case to the general public of the United States and say, would you 40 million heirs give us at least $1 million and we're all set, and we'll send it back if we don't need all the 40 million. But let's do something kind of creative and get it so that it's not just Bennington, and get some state, and I'm sure there is state pride, into the monument, and maybe invite people down to see it and give them a special day or something, and have our legislators, while they're out, do something that way to invite some of the dignitaries down here and, have a weenie roast for them or something, and just try to make it a fun thing, because there's nobody, I don't think, in the state really wants it to not exist. And I, like somebody said, I don't know, but I don't think it's going to cost $40 million to preserve it, but the way prices are today, maybe it will. But I'm all for it, and I want to publicly thank Mary Lou Albert and Jerry for all the work they did in lighting that monument.
Thank you, Mike. Anyone else? Colonial man again.
Martin's comment hits the nail on the head, by the way. But a funny story, if you like poutine at Little Britain, go there and enjoy that. But we had a naming contest for it, and it was between revolutionary, patriotic, or monumental poutine. And monumental won hands down, just to show the interest of our dear monument. So that's that.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I have one.
Jim's got one.
I'm gonna be lazy and continue to sit here, if you don't mind. But one of the obvious things that I just feel like I have to point out is the monument is sufficiently important that it is represented on our town logo along with Mount Anthony, two resources that I think are both critically important to the town and that should be preserved. And as I often do at these select board meetings, I hearken back to my past career with the Regional Commission and some of the work I did with the Bennington Planning Commission when the Planning Commission prepared the Scenic Resource Inventory and Plan for the town of Bennington. And at that time, we were looking at all of the features of the landscape, the natural landscape and the built landscape that makes Bennington such a special and beautiful place. And as we were looking at the water features, the rivers, the historical buildings in the downtown in Old Bennington, the mountains, the forests, the fields, the monument kept appearing in all those images and all those sections of the plan. And so the Planning Commission really felt that it was worth having a whole separate section on the battle monument, and not just for its singular significance as a structure in and of itself, or the historical significance of it, but for the way that it really provides a critical focal point to so much of the landscape context throughout the community. So it really does, as many people say, help define the character of the town. It really has a profound impact, whether we appreciate it ourselves since we live here and experience it every day or not. It really does define and give us a sense of where we live and why it's such a special place. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. Anyone else? If I'm not seeing you, make sure you wave your hand vigorously. All right. Anyone else on the board? Oh, Nancy.
I just hope going forward, between the people and groups who've spoken tonight, we can all get together and kind of have a master group and get this out and get it on the internet so people know that we are supportive. And yeah, let's start looking for donations, anybody who wants to donate. But I hope after this meeting, people don't sit back and wait for several months. I think we all need to come together and show how much we care about the monument and we want to move it and keep moving forward. So.
Thank you.
One more thing, is the dignitaries here, is there anything that the select board should be asking them as what we should do to spark the upstate to do something for this, or not let it fall by the wayside or something? You've got Mr. Bongartz and the other senators here, and you got that long-term, what's his name, Cochran? Tim Cochran? Yeah, he might have an idea, you know. So.
He may well have. I think Senator Plunkett spoke pretty succinctly on what the conversations that have been having in Montpelier and recommendations as to what we could do around that. But I'd be happy to hear from anyone else if they so desire.
I just don't think anybody in this room, quite honestly, doesn't want this thing to be preserved. And I think it's very rare that you've got a group of people that 100% of them agree on anything. So, especially me. But I think we should take the advantage of it and form a committee, and just to work out better ideas, maybe selling it to the general public on the internet. And don't waste this talent that you've got here. I'm backing up so much on the feet.
Is there anyone else that wants to add anything?
Tom, I mean, I think to Mike's point, I don't think it's too early, premature for the town, as has been suggested, represented by the select board, to make a formal statement of some type to the state so that they know and understand the local position and the importance of this issue to the community. So I think that's something that we should work on. At least it sets the stage, and I certainly would hope that most of the people in the state feel the same way, but I know that there's some, looking at the comments I've seen, in statewide media posts, there's some level of ambivalence, there's some level of shock at the amount of money and questioning whether it's worth it. And, I would like to have be as sure as we can be that when the conversation starts more seriously and more thoroughly at the state level, that it's pretty well established what the people who live around and with the monument every day feel. So, thank you.
Well said, Jim. Anyone else? Please.
Susan Wright. I live on Monument Avenue, have been there for 30 years. My husband, R. John Wright, passed away recently, but I wanted to share one of his memes, and it was Bennington, where everything's a battle. So, yes, we need to battle. We need to save the monument. We need to save our history and everything about our beautiful town and village. So let's battle on and remember that the past is our future.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? All right. Senator Bongartz.
So I want to actually echo what Jim Sullivan just said. I think it's very important that the town and the select board lead on this, because Jim is right that there is some ambivalence on a statewide basis about when people just hear the 40 million and they don't really understand the importance of the monument. So getting that word out and having people really understand it, but also to well articulate to the whole state how important this is to this region, and actually to the whole state if people really stop and think about it. It's really important. The other thing I'll say is that The fact that I give the people on the two committees, the institutions committees, the real credit for making this happen. Getting to $500,000 to get to the point of the RFP was actually a big deal. Because that was not universally something that everybody wanted to do, and they really fought for it. And I think that's now happening is going to go a long way toward really helping everybody understand what it's actually going to cost to do it, because the $40 million, like Jonah said, it's just a number sort of picked out of the air, and being able to quantify it and really understand the stages of the restoration, what each stage is going to cost. When you get to that point, you can really start to begin to think about how to raise money around it. So I think the notion of getting people organized, but maybe not, I think we'd have to kind of wait till it's hard to raise money till you actually know what you're talking about. So that's coming with this RFP, but getting ready for it is a great thing to do. And I think the town, through the select board, really making clear how critical this is for Bennington, and really being a loud voice when the time comes, which is pretty soon, is going to be really, really important. So maybe even a resolution on the ballot so that you can show, I don't know if that's the right way to do it or not, or whether it's just something for the select board, but we really need to think about how to really gin this up and really make people in the legislature and the rest of Vermont really understand how important this is to Bennington and how important to all of Vermont. So you're right on point. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator. Anyone else? Oh, Clark.
I want to commend our state representatives and senators for being here. I know you represent us, and it's really good to see that we have this non-partisan program that we all want to work together on. To echo both Mike and I can't remember her names, her husband, the idea that Bennington, where everything's a battle. Yeah, we do a lot of fighting and scrapping in this town, but I think we all fight and scrap because we want our town to be better. And I appreciate all of you for coming, and I look forward to working with our state representatives and our community in preserving our heritage and our stature in this country. Thank you.
Thank you, Clark. Anyone else?
Sure.
Sarah?
So thank you all for coming, and this is a great turnout, and thank you for the delegates as well. May it be possible for some of the committees to do field trips? Just a suggestion. I don't need an answer, so just a suggestion at this point to come down to see the monument and just check it out at some point. I know you do field trips sometimes, and sometimes we're forgotten, as you all know. And then I love the idea of a resolution on the ballot, and I'm just thinking maybe if we do some sort of resolution on the ballot, but just a resolution, possibility of maybe support at the state level. Just a thought throughout, now that I have you all here at the same time. Thank you again for coming, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you, Sarah. All right, is there anyone else? This, I think, was an impressive conversation. First, this is the largest turnout we've had for any listening session we've done so far, which speaks, I think, to the importance that people put on our monument. We heard a lot of good suggestions. We all took careful notes. And I think there are a lot of great ideas here that we're going to actually follow up on. And again, thanks everybody for coming out. I really do appreciate it. And I know everybody else here does too. Thanks to our reps for taking the time out. It's lovely to see you in this room and to get some feedback from you. So I think this was a very successful conversation, and it's the first of many conversations that we're going to have around this topic. So thanks again very much. And we do have a little bit of time if anybody has any other issues related to the town they want to discuss. I see one over here.
spent most of my life, I just moved here about 6 months ago, but my father's been living here for over 40 years.
Identify yourself, please, so we...
I'm sorry?
Just tell us who you are.
Oh, I'm sorry. My name's George Gerasa. I just moved here about 6 months ago to live with my father. He's been here about 40 years, though, in town. I came from Arizona from a small, I didn't come from there, but I've lived in a small town in Arizona for about 40 years, and something that has constantly concerned me was how they let buildings become empty and then rot and destroy, and what happens to the town after that. And I'm seeing empty buildings all over this town, and I was just wondering, because I know I've visited my father, even though I've only been here for 7 months, I've visited my father a number of times over the years, and that Friendly's building's been empty for about 15 years, and now there's garbage behind it, and I see junkies hanging out in this other spot, and there's so many things a town can do with empty buildings. There's a town in Colorado that used, they're starting to use them, I forget what you call them, incubators, they call them. So that's, you have an ever-ready building there, because I know you can't really make housing where the ever-ready building would be, because the ground would be poisonous, and probably the groundwater would be that too. But I was just wondering what the town is doing about this. Because this is a beautiful place. And that's my primary concern. I could go on about this for hours, but I don't think you want to hear me talk for hours.
I appreciate your yeah, thank you. Nancy,
a lot of these buildings have been privately owned by the same people for decades. So how we can do something, I don't know.
Well, unfortunately, my brother owns a building, and I can't even remember the name of the town in Florida, but I wouldn't recommend this, but the town started fining people about keeping up with the property, so at least you can make the property look neat. But there's a lot of things. You could take away their tax benefits for having an empty building for so long. Because I know a lot of them, because I own buildings, and I know a lot of people in New York City leave them empty solely because they'll say, hey, I'm not getting rent. My rent should be $10,000, so I'm losing this much a year to raise the price of their building. Then in 2 years, they'll say their building, they should be getting $15,000 in rent. Meanwhile, they can't even really get $3,000. So that's how they raise the price of their buildings. And I'm sure that's partially what's going on here without actually having looked into it. I did notice when I only started doing research on this yesterday, so I apologize, but I did notice that there's a bill up in the Capitol that about taking away tax benefits for people who have empty buildings for so long. So there is that. Mm-hmm. There's I think a lot of things you could do. You could give them benefits just to get those things occupied, I think. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's all I'm going to say.
Thank you. Sarah, did you have something? Yeah. Yep, go ahead.
I just wanted to respond to, I don't normally respond to listening sessions, but you have some legislators in the room's ears if they're still here at the end. So if that bill's up there, you'll have to hear at the end.
Mm-hmm. And I'll say, too, it's something we've been talking about for a while now, and there are challenges around this issue where some laws are probably going to have to be changed. But we do see the problem, and we agree that it is a problem. It's just not a simple solution, unfortunately. Jim?
Yeah, I just want to say one of the things that the town can do and has done is support remediation efforts to study and resolve some of the environmental issues associated with some of these buildings, including the Energizer building, like you mentioned. And definitely, forefront of my mind is actually reusing a number of those historic structures for housing, frankly, because it's such a critical need in the community. Thanks.
Anyone else have anything they want to bring to our attention, or? Oh, Clark.
Right. Sorry, I didn't get your name, but just the other select board meeting, we just had a presentation with the Better Bennington business folks, and one of the things they were looking at is using some of these empty spaces as displays, or to have art or something to, in fact, reduce the negative impact of people driving through our town and seeing these empty buildings. If I had the answer, or anyone in this room had the answer easily, I promise you it would have been done. It's not a one-size-fits-all solution, but we appreciate your input, and as a fresh set of eyes, it just confirms what we've been talking about needs to be fixed, or at least worked on. Thanks.
Mr. Bethel.
I hate to say it again. Sorry. Well, there's two things. One, the gentleman is exactly right. But Dan Monks is over there, and like he said, we got the senators in here. Can't our lawyer, Merrill Bent, look up to see, and I'll use this, and I don't know if it's right or wrong, but the Hart buildings in downtown, for instance, okay? I mean, what is their deal that they can be vacant forever? What is the benefit to that family or that organization for them to keep it vacant? And there's got to be a law, like this gentleman is saying, that we could pass either in our town plan or maybe the state to say, hey, look, enough is enough. 10 years of being vacant, come on. And the other thing is, Jim is very educated with the ex-director of BCRC. Can we, if you'd volunteer, make him the point person so all of this synergy for the monument people here, they have somebody to maybe go to or call or work? And me and Jim never get along, but he's a very smart man. And I recognize him that. And we go back a long ways, but I think Jim's very smart, and he could help these folks out to not just let this all go into the atmosphere. The energy here is great. So I just, those two things. And I promise, if that monument gets built, and I'm still kicking, I'll be the first one to go up that elevator in a wheelchair, and I'll definitely come down it one way or another. But I mean, I'll volunteer that.
Thanks.
So thank you.
Anybody else?
Mike, you're a very smart guy too, and if I could get you through one of those windows in the monument.
Never compliment you again.
All right. If anyone else would like to compliment Jim, that would be.
Beware if you do.
No, seriously though. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about tonight? Anyone else on the board? All right, well, thank you everyone for coming. I think this was a great success. I will remind everyone that we do seek suggestions as to topics we can discuss at these meetings. We got a couple suggestions over the last month or so, and in talking to Jim, we kind of felt they were maybe a little too broad or covered topics that we're already going to be discussing anyway. So, but do please continue if you think of things, send your suggestions in, and if we think it's going to make for a good topic for a listening session like this one clearly was, we will bring it to you, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks so much.